Hi there, my name is Justin. I'm going to be doing a quick review here today on the 2020 Ford Explorer Hybrid towing a travel trailer. There wasn't a lot of information on the hybrid powertrain towing when I bought it, and just picked up a 23-foot travel trailer and towing it about 1,000 kilometers through the mountains. So I thought, what better option than to do a test? So away we go here. I'll give you a run through of the trailer and the setup, and let you know how it tows and give some updates along the way. Alright, so here's the travel trailer. It's a 2014 Shadow Cruiser. We're in Alberta, just in the foothills right now, so we've only towed it about 50 kilometers so far. But as you can see, it's a decent sized trailer, all aluminum. Dry weight's around 4,700 pounds, and the towing capacity of the hybrid's 5,000. So we're pretty much at max weight with some stuff I threw in there to get some stuff out of the vehicle for the drive home. I picked up one of the Gen Y receivers. If you want to look them up online, there's really good reviews on a few of the towing videos out there. So far, it seems to really dampen the jerkiness from the trailer when the vehicle's on uneven ground or when you hit a big dip. Tongue weight, according to the books, around 430 pounds, so we're about 70 pounds under. And then you add in the receiver, which is 30 pounds itself. So we're getting pretty close to the max tongue weight as well. Hear the engine running here. It is a hybrid, but in tow haul mode, the engine does not shut off. The only other thing I've done to it is I put in the rear suspension airbags to prevent some of the sag, and I'm running them at about 20 pounds right now, which seems to be about right, but I'll be tweaking it along the road as we go. And I just put the valve right there. I'm not sure if you can see it beside the hitch, so it's easy to top up as we go to kind of find the optimum setup. So again, I'll give some updates on the road as we go and see how she does. All right, so now we're on the highway. Been going down the highway for about 40k now, doing 95 kilometers an hour, which is roughly 60 miles an hour for my American friends. And it's been bouncing between fourth gear at 4,000 RPM on some slight inclines, and it's been dropping the revs down to about 2,000 and getting into seventh gear on the flats. We're going into a bit of a headwind, but as you can see, we're in the mountains, so not sure of our current elevation, but we're probably at least 1,000 feet or more above sea level. Initial thoughts are it's handling the load pretty well. Don't really feel it back there. The lane centering actually works really well while towing a trailer. It keeps kicking in and out because a lot of the lines are worn off though. But overall it's quiet, it's composed. There's a little bit of trailer sway, but it's the trailer sway control and the lane centering counteract it pretty good. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's causing that. Got the tow mirrors there, which are doing pretty good. And as you can see, we're about 23 liters per 100 kilometers currently. So we'll see when we get some gas here what it's actually averaging out to. On the trip out, we're doing about 130 kilometers an hour most of the way and averaging about 11.5 liters per 100k. Obviously, it's going to be quite a bit more going into the wind and towing the trailer, but we'll see what happens, and I'll continue to provide updates. We're going down to 7% grade. As you can see, revs aren't too high, but when the battery charges and the regen stops, revs like to kick up to grade break. I think I just dropped a gear now. small battery fills up pretty quick when you're going down a hill with the trailer, and then you're just relying on the engine that, according to Ford, doesn't use any gas in these situations. It's just simply grade braking. So, alright, well, let's see how much gas she takes now. Fill her up. It's not cheap here, it's $1.31.9 a liter. Let's see how many liters it takes. $56.86 liters. Not bad. Alright, so I thought we'd do a bit of a acceleration test here. See how it does getting on the highway. Flat ground, so see the speed limit's 100. It's flat and relatively effortless. No problems getting up to highway speeds. You can feel it back there a bit, but it's not bad. It's more once you're in the hills or if you have any wind coming at you that you really feel it. But I'll give an update as we get through the pass here. We've got Rogers Pass coming up, which is pretty steep. I'm not sure what the percentage grade is, but it's quite a few snow sheds, and I believe it's around 1,300 meters in elevation, so we're getting up there a bit for sure, which also affects the vehicle, but so far it's been good. Hand calculated, the last tank was 22.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which isn't great, but was a bit better than what I was expecting, given some of the reviews I've seen with the new Power Boost towing a similarly sized trailer. So we'll continue to provide updates as the trip progresses. Rogers Pass now. Mileage has gotten worse because of the amount of hills we've had to go up. Been watching the hybrid display. It's quite interesting how it'll change from charging the battery to drawing from the battery to normal operation. When you're going up a hill, it'll change to hybrid operation. It'll show that it's drawing from the battery as well. So it's really interesting to see and feel how, even on flat ground, the drivetrain reacts to the different conditions of the battery. It'll kick the revs down when the battery starts powering the drivetrain more, and they'll kick up when the battery needs to be recharged, and it just cycles back and forth. But overall, it's pretty consistent with its power delivery. I was really worried about how it would react when the battery depletes, and I guess we'll find out in the pass because it's a really long way up. But so far we've had some decent lengths of hills and haven't really felt that. It's been able to maintain 100 kilometers an hour up all the hills so far, and max revs were about 5,200 climbing that hill, and it wasn't all the way to the floor. There's still some room to go. So I just noticed this one going down a hill will say engine drive mode, engine braking active. As you can see here, we're close to 500, or just over 4,000 rather, RPM, and just upshifted there, but now it just says engine on to drive mode. And so in tow haul, engine's on 100% of the time, except, just found out recently, backing up at a gas station, if you put it into reverse and tow haul mode, it goes into EV mode only. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Leaving town, I drove in normal just to see how it would do, and tows the trailer just fine. You got to be still easy on the accelerator like you are anytime you want to stay in EV, but it will do it at slower speeds, going from stop sign to stop sign, and even accelerating lately. So definitely shows that EV motor can help out a bit, especially on these hills. We're about to start climbing Rogers Pass here. So just around this bend, we'll start climbing to Rogers Pass, which again, I believe off the top of my head is 1,300 meters. When I post this, I'll correct it if it's vastly different than that, but I don't think it is. So it's pretty nice here. It's getting dark. It's about 6 o'clock. We're about to fall back into the BC time zone, even though we're already in BC. The time changes back an hour, so it'll be 5 o'clock again pretty soon. As you can see here, we're starting to climb. This isn't the steepest part, but we are starting. Doing 24 liters per 100 kilometers. It's over 42 kilometers. As you can see, 0 electric kilometers because it doesn't go into electric driving while towing a trailer. So I've been watching this hybrid driving power flow that they have going on, and it's been interesting how it goes between grade braking, battery charging, hybrid drive, etc. You can feel it when it switches, especially on the hills here. So I'm not sure what gear we're in, but doing just under 100, just downshifted there, a little over 4,000 RPM. It's really not bad at 4,000 RPM, and there we go, we're in 4th. So it's not to the floor, but it's maintaining its speed pretty well. Keep getting these frost heave bumps here, which are pretty violent with the trailer, but with the airbags, it's definitely smoothing it out. This is to the floor, so we're at 5,000, and it will accelerate quite slowly, but it will accelerate. Obviously, it's not really good for the mileage, and you wouldn't want to do that for a long period of time, but if you need to just get past someone to sneak ahead of a slow semi like we just did for the snow sheds where we get cut off, and it can do it. Doesn't have much to spare, but it does have a bit. Remember, we do have just under the tow capacity, so we're pretty much at the limit. And oh wow, the sky looks pretty amazing with these mountains here. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with how it's doing. I was really concerned with what would happen when the battery depletes when you're towing up a long grade like this, whether you'd have enough power to keep going with just the internal combustion engine, or whether it would somehow keep the battery charged enough. Ford was really unclear about that in their marketing materials, because they have asterisks behind all of the power ratings of the hybrid, saying that that's reliant on full battery charge, which doesn't really help when you're towing up a long hill like this if you only have a 1.5 kilowatt hour battery. But I don't have a lot of vehicles to compare it to, but my most recent vehicle was a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4-door. Had the 373s 5-speed automatic. It was a 2013. Just bear with me, I'm going to see if we can make it past this semi so we're not too slow in the snow sheds. We're going to make it. See, that's where that little bit of extra power helps out. But yeah, going back to the Wrangler, so towing, probably shouldn't admit this, but towed over the tow capacity a few times, about 4,500 pounds. And it did all right on the flats, but on the hills, we really had, sorry, some bumps here, guys. I get bounced around. The airbags really help preventing us from bottoming out in those situations, but as unnerving as it is, the vehicle actually handles them quite well, and it's quite composed. I don't feel like I'm going to lose control or anything, which is good. But yeah, the Wrangler, that 3.6 Pentastar, I felt was a really good engine. It just, the gearing being 5 speeds, you always felt like you were in between gears, or you needed an in-between gear that you didn't have. And this being the 10-speed, I mean, it's pretty impressive. You don't really feel it shift. It shifts really quick. There's no clunking, there's no lag, anything like that, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, that was my one complaint with the Wrangler, was that. So the trailer that was being towed was a 7 by 14 foot cargo trailer, loaded up to 4,500 pounds in some trips. Then last March bought another trailer, about 2.5 hours south of where we picked this one up. And with that one, I rented a Wrangler to go pick it up because the rates were so cheap due to COVID. And it had the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with the 48-volt hybrid system. And although the trailer was empty, it was about 1,500 pounds, it still had a lot of wind resistance, and it was really windy on that trip, and I was really blown away at how much that small Jeep, that small engine could do with that 8-speed automatic. It was pretty impressive. It was always in the right gear, just like this thing, and having the Turbo 4, I don't know, it only took regular, but it did really well towing. Passing on 2-lane roads was not a problem. Climbing these hills wasn't a problem. We're able to do 120, 130 easily, but it drank quite a bit of fuel. It was about 22 to 23 liters per 100K. This one's obviously, you know, doing a bit more, but this is also a heavier trailer. A lot larger, so a lot more wind resistance and everything. But again, I think we're doing pretty good being at the max tow capacity here. And again, just taking a look at the hybrid drive, it says the battery's charging now, so we probably depleted it through that wide open throttle application on those hills. Now it's wanting to recharge the battery a bit in case we do it again, so it has some extra get up and go. The reviews on the hybrid towing, there was one brief one from the launch event that I could find, and didn't really answer a lot of questions, but based off the initial feedback, I felt confident going with the hybrid, not driving it. I really didn't want to go with a 4-cylinder EcoBoost, especially while towing. I just felt it would be like a sewing machine. I mean, I'm sure it would do fine, but just not a big fan of 4-cylinders. And to go to the 3-liter EcoBoost is a big jump up. You have to go to the ST or the Platinum, so it's going to cost quite a bit more up front and quite a bit more on gas, and I do a lot of stop and go driving for work, so I like the normally aspirated V6 idea, and the fact that it had a hybrid system mated to it. I thought that was pretty cool, that I could utilize that in stop and go traffic driving a lot on my commute. And so far I've been really happy with this hybrid. It was just the one big question mark was how it was going to do on this trip towing the trailer. I was really quite unnerved about it. Oh wow, quite a bit of snow this year up in the pass, but yeah, it's been doing quite well. So we'll see how it does tomorrow. We're going up and over the Coquihalla, and depending on which route we go, we might also go over another mountain pass on the connector between the Okanagan and Merritt, and we'll provide an update then. But so far so good. We're under 30 liters per 100K, and there's one video I watched about the new Power Boost, the F-150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost and this battery, and I believe it's the same electric motor and 10-speed automatic. It obviously did a lot better than this towing, but the guy was saying with an equivalent trailer size he was using about 30 liters per 100 when he did the conversion for miles per gallon that he's getting. And he cross compared that to the 3-liter Duramax and GMC, which obviously did substantially better. That was about 20 liters per 100 kilometers when he did the conversion. So this, you know, doing under 30 so far anyway, I think is pretty good, especially being as taxed as it has been, you know, pushing it to the floor coming up that hill. I also find it really interesting when you go down how right now we're charging, because I've got my foot on the brake just ever so slightly. And as the battery charges, as you can see the battery's charging there on the power flow display, that bar seems to shrink. And then what happens is if we push too hard, it turns white, and that means the brake's kicking in. Now we're just coasting, so it's just recharging a bit. Just do want to go slow through this corner up here because it's this weird, oddly embanked corner, and it's wet, and it makes like 180 degrees, but gives us a chance to charge up the battery and not wear out the brakes. See, as you can see, the battery's pretty much fully charged. Now we're into engine braking, and now that green bar shrunk down to almost nothing, and the white bar, which is the brakes on the actual hydraulic brakes, are working more going around this corner here. But it doesn't take much to charge the hybrid battery with a load like this going downhill, especially since it's not very big. And I think that's about it for Rogers Pass. The rest of the hills going down are pretty gentle, and so we'll just be going up and down some rolling hills down into Revelstoke here tonight, and I'll give you an update tomorrow. All right, I thought I'd do a quick little video on the electric motor doing the towing here. So we're just in a parking lot, rest area. And as you can see, it's pretty effortless with towing here with just the electric motor at slow speed. So it's got some decent torque to it for sure. It's able to drive from the gas station down the road, up the road with just the electric motor, and as soon as you jab it to get on the road, obviously it kicks in, but you can cruise around a campsite towing the camper and just EV mode. So this is just climbing up to the top of Larson Hill here. So we're maintained 93 is the slowest we ended up going, and towards the top there it got up to, I believe, 108 or so at 6,000, and that was completely matted, definitely a bit loud, but I was trying to get past a couple semis, and it was able to do it. So obviously this isn't the most powerful model. The 3-liter EcoBoost would do a lot better there, but still able to pull up that hill at a reasonable rate of speed. So now we're going down. We're going to be going down a bit of a steeper hill here, but it doesn't last for too long. It's one of my second least favorite hill on this highway in winter, because it ends up getting quite icy from, I don't know exactly why, but I think the way the sun hits it, and then the wind and everything else, it turns into black ice. Makes it a bit unnerving going down. So some of you guys might be wondering why I chose this vehicle and why I didn't just buy an F-150 or a truck to tow with, and there's a good reason for that, I guess, at least in my opinion. Live in the city, close to downtown. I work in construction, so I'm based in the office, but I go to all of our different job sites. And my commute to and from the office, I don't know how many stoplights there are, but probably in excess of 30. And the hybrid obviously does really good there. size was an issue. Our parking stalls aren't too big. Also, bouncing around the city all day trying to squeeze into parkades when I'm going into meetings and doing site visits was something that I wanted to take into consideration, because I had a Ram 1500 that I was driving for work for about 3 weeks, and as much as I really liked the truck, it was just such a pain in the ass to park. I'd be looping around the block trying to find a spot, and it's not because I'm a poor parker. It was just the truck physically would not fit in those parking stalls, especially the parkades these days. The architects designed them so small that, I mean, this thing I can barely wedge in, but I can wedge it in and get it out of almost any stall. And that was another concern, is in the parkade, sometimes you might be able to squeeze into a stall, but if a long vehicle parks beside you or across the aisle from you, you can't get out. And I also want to be able to tow. Never intended to tow a trailer this large, but with COVID, things change, and my mom wanted to get out more, so she wanted a trailer, so I thought I'd get it for her. And the plan is, once we get it to the coast, just to tow it to more local spots within an hour or two away, set it up for a couple, 3-4 weeks at a time, and away we go. And the cargo trailer that I'm building, I'll do another video on that just to show you all what I'm building, but it's a toy hauler for motorcycles and an RV in one. So I'll show you guys that, and that thing loaded up is going to be under 4,000 pounds, and that's 1,000 pounds under the capacity of this, so I thought it could do it pretty well. And yeah, that was kind of the rationale behind getting it. And like I said earlier in one of the other clips, it's a big step up to get the 3-liter EcoBoost. I mean, it's about a $10,000 option up here in Canada, plus our gas, as you can see from my videos of the pump, is really expensive. 2 summers ago, I think we're up to about $1.70 a liter. I'm not sure what that is in gallons, but it was quite a bit. So any bit, like even a couple liters per 100 kilometers, 100 liters per 100 kilometers, makes a huge difference. Here's that B train passing us. That was swaying quite a bit earlier, so give him some room here. But yeah, so even a liter or two per 100 kilometers makes a huge difference, over 100,000 kilometers or 62,000 miles. Really adds up. So would have ended up being, closer to a $15,000 option at the end of the day. And at least down here, the hybrids hold their value quite a bit more than the other vehicles, just because everyone wants hybrid these days. So we'll see what happens when it gets to the point of selling this thing, whether it rings true and it was the right decision to make for resale or not. But pretty happy with my decision so far. Got 15,000 kilometers on it, so I booked it in for its first oil change at 16,000 kilometers on Wednesday this week. Today's Sunday, so I'll be under the 16K by about 400 kilometers or so. When we left, we had about 2,000 or so less kilometers, and the oil life display was still showing over 40%. I haven't had a look at it yet, but I've checked the oil a couple times on this drive just to make sure it's good, and it's starting to get a bit dark, but not bad, and it's maybe down half a quart or so, which compared to our neighbor who just got a new BMW, that's really good, because I think his drank a liter of oil. By the time it hit 5,000K, it was below ad, so I think he actually put in more than a quart. I'm not sure if that's common with these new new turbocharged engines, but that has not been the case with this thing, so we'll see how it holds up. But if you can base it off how the other hybrids that Ford built were, I think they're pretty reliable. We used to have a Ford Escape hybrid 2008 in the family and had no issues. It was a really good vehicle, obviously not a tow vehicle at all, and it was a bit buzzy on the highway, but it actually did have pretty good passing power. It's definitely a good split between the base 4-cylinder and the V6 I found, and again, in city driving it was really good. So obviously when the Ford came out and announced this, I was kind of excited, the fact that I could get a normally aspirated V6 and a regular 10-speed automatic with the hybrid drivetrain. Because those CVTs, even though the Highlander hybrid could tow 3,500, and being a CVT and being so buzzy, I don't know, it just didn't seem like something that would be that gratifying to drive. But this one seems to drive like a normal vehicle, and if you aren't a big fan of the engine shutting on and off, you can put it in sport mode, which definitely livens it up. Just drive it in sport all the time if you want, which it's nice because depending on my mood, sometimes I'm an eco on my drive home and trying to hypermile it a bit, not to be an ass, but just to not jackrabbit from stoplight to stoplight. And then other days when I'm a bit of an aggro mood, or I want to get in front of someone, put it in sport, and it's pretty punchy. Been able to beat quite a few other vehicles off the line with it, which is good, especially if you get in those moods like me sometimes. But yeah, that's why I picked this one, and again, so far I'm happy with my purchase. In the future I might get a truck if I have more room, but it's just more of a hassle than what it's worth, I find right now. But we'll see how it does this summer, going down some Forest Service roads and stuff like that. And I'll be sure to provide some more updates as it goes along and report any issues. And if you guys have any questions about anything else you'd like to know about this, just put it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Alright, we're nearing the summit now. As you can see, there's more snow on the side of the road, and air is getting a bit thinner up here. This pass is a bit higher than Rogers Pass. It's I think about 1,444 meters. Can't really do the math in my head while driving here, so I'm not sure what that is in feet. But anyway, so definitely losing a little bit of power from the elevation gain. This is where the EcoBoost will probably shine a lot more, but at least we're not up here for too long. And as you can see, there's a lot of places where it looks like vehicles crashed into the bank. Last big snowstorm they had here, which was about a week or so ago, but it's been warm this week and there's been a lot of sunshine, so it's starting to melt away, which is nice. But you can see there's lots of gravel still on the road. Make you keep your winter tires on this highway until end of April, and we're middle of May, so another 6 weeks or so generally the weather gets better, but still get some bad weather up here past then sometimes. So drop the speed limit down to 100 here right now. Sometimes it's up to 120. Really doesn't make sense to me, the variable speed zones, because sometimes it says you can do 120 and it's a snowstorm and I only feel comfortable doing 80, and then other times it'll say 80 and it'll be nice and clear like here, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be 120 in my opinion. But maybe there's some other rationale for it I'm not aware of. Just see a lot more Teslas on this highway now. They added a supercharger in Merritt where we got gas, and there's one of those rapid chargers from BC Hydro, the provincial utility, power utility company. It's Crown Corporation. They've been adding these EV chargers all over the place, so you're actually starting to see electric vehicles up here in the pass, which is kind of cool, I guess. One other thing I was kind of looking forward to, which unfortunately did not come to fruition here, was that plug-in hybrid drivetrain for the Ford Explorer. I was kind of thinking that would be cool, the one that the Aviator got, but not at the price of what the Aviator is. But I thought that 3-liter EcoBoost with all that power and the electric motor and the plug-in would be pretty awesome up here. Being able to have all that power on tap, commute Monday to Friday on electric power alone, and then in situations like this, be able to put it in recharge mode, keep the battery topped up, and have all that power on tap for those climbs, and just be able to blow past everyone when you're feeling a bit aggro with the trailer. I'll try to do a review this summer when we go up the Hope Princeton on Highway 3, which is a 2-lane, twisty, windy road, very few passing lanes, and it's pretty amazing seeing those diesel trucks, the 3/4 tons and 1-ton diesels towing big trailers, like 32-foot trailers, like they're nothing, going 130, 140 kilometers an hour. Not that I recommend doing so. I don't really think that's too safe, but especially on a 2-lane highway with lots of twists and turns and not great pavement, but it's pretty impressive that they can do that. I think some of them have over 1,000 pound-feet of torque now, and they've got a little over 300, so it's a little hard to keep up. We're finally getting close to home, which is on the west coast, also known as the wet coast. As you can see, it's a big change from up top and where we were on the interior this weekend, but it's got quite windy, and so as you can see, the revs are up quite a bit. Still handling everything well. I did get one warning to slow down because of the trailer sway control being active, and that was going down the hill, and coincidentally there was a big gust of wind, and a half-ton truck came flying past me, probably going 50 kilometers an hour faster than I was, and between the two it definitely made the trailer sway, but that trailer sway control clearly kicked in, and I barely felt the thing other than a normal twitch like I have when there's been other gusts or I've caught a rut. Nothing unnerving. Thought it handled it really well. As you can see, the rain sensing wipers are pretty good in situations like this too. Just one last thing to focus on. But all in all, good trip. And I hope this helps everyone out, and any other questions or comments, just post them below. See what I mean about the lane centering? So it's on, my hand isn't on the wheel, but it's close by. It's pretty windy right now, but it keeps doing all these minor, see, now it's gonna get mad at me, but it really does take away a lot of inputs that make it so draining on a long drive like this when it's windy. Like all these little inputs it's doing, and I just have to rest my hand on the wheel and let it know that it's there, and it really helps quite a bit. Alright everyone, so I've given you an overview of how the 2020 Explorer Hybrid tows. I now have almost 25,000 kilometers on the odometer, and I've towed a few different trailers over different routes. Overall, it's still doing quite well. You know, missed some power while passing on 2-lane highways with slow-moving RVs and stuff like that, but otherwise it's been great. So it can tow 5,000 pounds just fine, as long as you have appropriate trailer brakes. And I would highly recommend a sway control bar to put on the tongue of the trailer and mount to your receiver. I just installed one. I've not tried it out yet, but towing through some windy areas, I think it would really help with the trailer sway. Other than that, it's been great. You know, I'm averaging about 25 liters per 100 kilometers, whether I'm towing the big trailer, the shadow cruiser, or the cargo trailer loaded up. I actually find the cargo trailer doesn't tow as well as the big trailer, and I think part of that is just the design of the front, it being a V-nose instead of a concave front, and also possibly being lower to the ground. You know, it does have a bit more surface area and drag lower to the ground as well. So it, although it's about 1,000 pounds lighter loaded up, it doesn't tow quite as well as the big trailer. So if you guys have any other questions, post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thanks for watching this video.